Hi guys, this is Raghav Brewer, and in this tutorial we will study about databases, remote databases, and we will create an empty ASP.NET project, and we'll learn how to use LINQ to SQL in an ASMX web service that can be consumed in Windows Phone. So first of all, we have here Visual Studio 2013 Ultimate, and we can go here from view and then to our server explorer. Now in the data connections tab, we right click and add connection, and you need to mention here that the connection is of Microsoft SQL Server. Continue. You paste in the credentials and the server name. I have copy pasted my server name on the clipboard. Use SQL Server authentication, and this is provided to me by my vendor, that is Windows Azure, and I put in my password. Now let's test the connection, and it says test connection succeeded. Now we can select the database name from here. Till now we have connected to the server. Now we will select our database, and this shows 4 options, and I will select Skilltrix and click OK. So as the connection is made, we will have our database listed on the left side in our server explorer. And we can add new tables in a visual way. So now our connection is live on our server explorer. Let's try to add a new table and creating 2 columns in that table. So let's go over here, tables, and add new table. Our window is being opened up for the designing of our table, and it's a mixed way of visual and of SQL query. Either we can write SQL query, or we can define the columns in the design surface that is being loaded on your screen. Let's go over here. And we define our 2 columns, that is username and password, and ID is already being defined. It's taking some time. So you can see now our designer window is loaded. It was a connection error last time, and we can define 2 columns here, username, it's hanging a bit, and nvarchar max, or you can define it with some conditions like nvarchar 50 to limit the username to 50 characters. Let's go to our new column and we define here password. That too we define and varchar max. And we can remove here the not null constraints on our column, and finally we can click the update button, so it will update our database with a new table, and it will ask for a table name. Sorry, my Microsoft Visual Studio is too busy to handle this operation. So let's change the table name. And click the update button, and a new table is being added to our database. And it has prepared the script for updating. As soon as the preparation is complete, we can click the update database button. So as you can see in our this data tool operation window, it is showing update as complete, and we have our table over here, Skilltricks test. So let's now create a new ASP.NET project, and we will use this database in that ASP.NET project. We go to web and create an ASP.NET web application, and let's name it Visual Studio is now creating a new ASP.NET web application. Project creation is successful. Now what we have to do is we have to add a new LINQ to SQL class. LINQ is language integrated query. So we go to new items and we type in LINQ, and we have LINQ to SQL classes. We change the name here db.dbml. The extension of a LINQ class or LINQ designer file is dbml, and what we have to do is that we have to drag our table into this dbml file to get it working. Now you must watch this db data context. So a data context can hold more than two tables, and in a data context there can be more tables, and there is a class for each data context, and there is a class for each of the table in that data context. So as we focus on our table, we have this Skilltricks test data class. So now we have two data classes, one is db data context and the other is Skilltricks test. So now what we will do is we will add a web service, and this web service will be used to connect with our Windows Phone application. And let's name it first db.asmx. So now we have our ASMX web service ready, and we can write down our code. So let's change the name of the web method to sign up, and this method will contain two parameters, that is string and a password that will come from our Windows Phone. And let's for the time being return an empty string here so that the error is removed. Now what we have to do is we have to create a object of our db data context class. So let's name the object as context is equals to new db data context, and we define a new object of our table also, and let's we give test.id is equals to, let's say, 1. And as you can see that our database or our table has been converted to a class. We have made object of that class, and through that we are able to access the properties. The properties are the properties correspond to the columns, and so we can assign password that is coming from the function test.username is equals to the username coming from the function, and context dot it will show skill tricks tests. You can see an extra s over here, dot insert on submit, and it's asking for a type skill tricks test, and what we are gonna put in is the test object. And till now we have created a new row in our context, and finally what we have to do is to save the changes. We will call submit changes function, and it will submit the function, and we can return OK over here. So let's now run our application, and on a local host we will provide username and password values. It's being opened in our web browser. It's taking too much time over here, and now our web service has been loaded, and we go on to sign up and provide the username values from here. Let's name 1234, and let's invoke our service and see if it's working correctly or not. And now we have our string returned back as OK. Now let's go back to our application, and let's see if my server my table has those values that we have entered or not. We go into the tables and right click to show table data. As you can see that we have now one new row in our database. So we have successfully entered a new row in our database. Now let's create a new web method and define the method login that will accept the same parameters, username and password. So there's a difference between the two approaches. In the first approach, we have entered a new row by creating a new object. Now what we'll do is we will iterate over the rows in the skill tricks test table and see if our username and password matches in a specific row or not. So we will define a variable x, and now we will write a LINQ query, language integrated query, from y in. Okay, let's define a context here also, from y in context dot skill tricks test, where y, and as soon as I put y dot, we can see our column's name over there. So what we will do is we will compare against the values that are coming through the function, and y dot password is equals to password, select y. Now let's count it, and if x is equals to 0, then we return credentials does not match. Else we show successful match. So I hope you get the logic. We have counted the number of rows and the number of rows that matches with the username and the password, and we have kept a count of it. And if that count is equals to 0, then the credentials don't match. There is not even a single row in that complete table whose username and password matches with the arguments. And let's again try to run our application and see if that works or not. Here we put Raghav and 1234. Again we will put the same sorry for the error. So the crash has been resolved now, and we have again our local host and our web service. Now we go to our login web method and we will fill in the same things that we have done during the sign up. That is Raghav and 1234. Now let's invoke the login web method and let's see what it brings to us. It's taking some time. So there is an error over here, and it says a network related error. I think I have lost my internet connectivity, and I have restored it back. Let's check if I have restored it back. Yup. Now we will again run the application. And go to our login method and invoke it, and have our password. Invoke. Again there is an error. I am sorry for that. It says that my IP is not accessible, or my IP is not allowed. So I will have to go to my Windows Azure and add this IP to the rule of Windows Azure so that my IP gets allowed. I will tick yes, and a new rule has been added, and my IP has been added over here. I don't want to manage. Back again, restart the application. I'm sorry for those errors, because I restored my connectivity back, so the IP changed. Now it should work, hopefully. Yes. Now it gives us a string, successful match. Now let's put in a wrong password, and it says credentials doesn't match. So in this session we have completed our LINQ to SQL web connection, database connection, and we have created a new web service, and in those web service we created two methods. One is sign up and one is login. In the sign up web method we created a new row in our table, and in the login method we have checked those username and password against the username and password we provide to the login method. So to finish this session, in the next session we will connect this web service to the Windows Phone, and we will send these parameters, username and password, and for the sign up as well, through our phone, and then we will have our web service working at its fullest. So thank you guys for watching.